Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, just a few friendly reminders. Kindly place your phones on silent mode to avoid interruptions during the program. We have official photographer around, so feel free to smile and enjoy the moment. And lastly, do take this opportunity to network, learn and share. Ladies and gentlemen, announcing the arrival of our moderator, Mr. Khairy Jamaluddin, guest speakers Dr. Choy, Sook, Kuen, and Datin, Anit, Kaur, Randawa, accompanied by our President of PPSEAWA Malaysia, Madam Mona Jamaluddin, and members of PPSEAWA Malaysia. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, please stand for National Anthem Negaraku. As we just celebrated our Independence Day, we are going to sing Jalo Gemilang together, and please wave the Malaysia flag on your table.
Semangat wajah, putihmu bersih, kuning pekerti, kuning berdalam, payung negara, biru perpaduan kami semua, puncak dunia telah tak kawan, lautan luas telah tak reda, membawa semangat jiwa merdeka, semarang jaya kami warganya. Dalam Malaysia, satu suara, satu semangat, itu sumpah warga berdaulat. Jalur gemilang di bawah naunganmu, jalur gemilang kami semua bersatu, kepaduan, ketaatan, amalan murni rakyat Malaysia. Jalur gemilang maka kami terasa, jalur gemilang ibaratlah wawasan tidak mungkin biru kuning, jalur semangat kami semua. Merahmu bara semangat wajah, putihmu bersih, kuning pekerti, kuning berdalam, payung negara, biru perpaduan kami semua, puncak dunia telah tak kawan, lautan luas telah tak reda, membawa semangat jiwa merdeka, semarang jaya kami warganya. Apakah sekalipun jalurnya, semua negeri dalam Malaysia, satu suara, satu semangat, itu sumpah warga berdaulat. Jalur gemilang di bawah naunganmu, jalur gemilang kami semua bersatu, kepaduan, ketaatan, amalan murni rakyat Malaysia. Jalur gemilang maka kami terasa, jalur gemilang ibaratlah wawasan tidak mungkin biru kuning, jalur semangat kami semua. Berkibarlah, 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 jalur gemilang.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We would now like to officially kickstart this important afternoon of sharing, learning and connecting. Datuk Rahma Abdul Hamid, our founder and past president of PPSEAWA International, who is unable to be with us today due to health reason. Datuk Dr. Raj Karim, Vice President of PPSEAWA International. Datuk Munira Haji Hassan, Vice President of PPSEAWA International. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for being here today at the second annual Fireside Chat and Charity High Tea hosted by PPSEAWA Malaysia. I'm Miss Natasha Nuralanis, your MC for today. It is an honor to gather under this year's theme, Embracing Neurodiversity for a Kinder Malaysia, at a time when understanding and inclusion are more vital than ever. Today's event celebrates not only awareness, but meaningful action towards building a society that accepts every mind, every story, and every strength. To officially welcome you all, it is my pleasure to invite to the stage the President of PPSEAWA Malaysia, a passionate advocate for women, peace and inclusion, Madam Mona Jamaluddin. Please give her a warm round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Choy, Sook, Kuen, Datin, Anit, Randawa, Khairy Jamaluddin, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly a pleasure to welcome you all to this special Fireside Chat on embracing neurodiversity for a kinder Malaysia. Today, we gather not just to share insights, but to foster understanding, inclusion, and compassion within our communities. Neurodiversity encompasses the natural variations in human brain function, differences that include autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and other neurological conditions. These differences are part of the rich tapestry of human diversity, and recognizing this is vital to building a society that every individual's unique talents and perspectives are valued. In Malaysia, we are blessed with vibrant cultures, diverse communities, and countless stories of resilience and success. Embracing neurodiversity means advocating for environments where all individuals, regardless of neurological differences, can thrive, contribute, and feel valued. Today's discussion aims to deepen our understanding, challenge stereotypes, and inspire action. Whether you're an educator, a parent, a policy maker, or a community member, each of us has a role in fostering a more inclusive Malaysia, one that celebrates neurodiversity and nurtures kindness and acceptance. As we listen and learn from our distinguished speakers, I encourage you to reflect on how we can each contribute to this vision, creating a society where everyone is understood, supported, and empowered. Thank you for your commitment to this vital cause. Let's work together towards a kinder, more inclusive Malaysia. Enjoy the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mona, for that warm and inspiring welcome. We now have the honor of hearing a special address by the President of PPSEAWA International, Madam Mondia Bangsba.
Good afternoon. Sawadee ka. Wan Mona binti Jamaluddin, President of PPSEAWA Malaysia, Dato' Rama Abdul Hamid, past President of PPSEAWA International, Mr Khairy Jamaluddin, Dr. Choy, Sook, Datin, Anit, Kuen, Randawa, distinguished guests, PPSEAWA Malaysia sisters, and or attendees. It is with great joy and honor to welcome you today on behalf of the Pan-Pacific and Southeast Asia Women's Association International. Even though I cannot be with you in person. Through this recording, I join you in spirit. My deepest appreciation to PPSEAWA Malaysia for organizing this meaningful event on the theme Embracing Neurodiversity for a Kinder Malaysia. Peace, at its heart, begins with understanding, open minds and hearts to accept differences as strength that enrich our communities. Neurodiversity reminds us that every individual, whether neurotypical or neurodivergent, brings unique gifts, perspective, and talents to our shared human family. Malaysia, with rich and diverse cultures, has shown us their hearts and minds the importance and beauty of living together in harmony. When we embrace neurodiversity, we are not only creating space for acceptance, we are building the very foundation of peace. True peace is not simply the absence of conflict, but the presence of respect, dignity, and kindness for all, where no one is left behind, where every voice matters, and where compassion guides our actions. As we will also celebrate International Peace Day, let us reaffirm our commitment not only to global peace, but also to creating a kinder Malaysia, where neurodiverse individuals are valued, supported, and empowered to thrive. Bridge together harmony, strength, and love. I thank you all for being here today, for your commitment to peace, and for all openness to embrace diversity in all forms. May this occasion inspires all to carry forward the message of kindness, inclusion, and peace, not just for Malaysia, but for the world. Thank you very much. Sawadika.
And now, the moment we've been looking forward to, our Fireside Chat. So this conversation will bring together voices of experience, professional insights, and heartfelt advocacy on neurodiversity. Moderating the session is Mr Khairy Jamaluddin, an accomplished public figure with a deeply personal connection to the cause. Joining him are two phenomenal speakers, Dr. Choy Sook Kuen, a medical doctor with extensive experience in neurodevelopment and autism care, and Datin Anit Randawa, a passionate legal advocate for persons with disabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our speakers with a big round of applause.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dan salam sejahtera, salam Hari Kebangsaan dan juga Hari Malaysia. Puan Mona Jamaluddin, Presiden PPSEAWA, seterusnya barisan kepimpinan PPSEAWA yang bersama dengan kita pada hari ini, div-div kehormat, tuan-tuan, perempuan, tuan-tuan yang saya hormati sekalian. Pertamanya saya ingin merakamkan ucapan terima kasih sekali lagi kepada PPSEAWA kerana ini adalah tahun kedua saya dipaksa untuk menjadi moderator. Kalau ada yang masih lagi tak tahu apa relevannya KJ dengan PPSEAWA ini, presiden dia Puan Mona Jamaluddin, jadi sama mak sama bapa dengan saya, sebab tu saya dipaksa. Dan mantan presiden PPSEAWA ni adalah juga bonda kepada kami berdua, Rahmah binti Abdul Hamid. Dia kian salam tak dapat nak datang, usia dah 90 tahun, masih sihat Alhamdulillah, tapi dia jarang keluar. Tapi dia bersama dengan kita in spirit seperti biasa. Jadi hari ini sekali lagi saya ucapkan terima kasih kerana dijemput buat kali kedua, tahun kedua untuk Fireside Chat. Saya dah jadi moderator banyak kali, diberi tema Fireside Chat, tapi saya tak pernah nampak Fireside di Malaysia ni. Tapi ini digunakan sebagai tema untuk satu perbualan yang lebih intim, perbualan yang tidak berapa formal. Jadi nanti kita akan buka ruang kepada puan-puan, tuan-tuan, terutamanya yang ada pengalaman dengan ahli keluarga yang mungkin neurodiverse ataupun ada pandangan dan juga ada soalan-soalan tertentu berkaitan dengan tema neurodiversity yang kita nak bincang ini. Pertamanya saya nak juga memperkenalkan panelis kita yang sangat-sangat saya rasa tersohor di terutamanya di komuniti neurodivergence, sebab mereka ni bukan hanya ada ahli keluarga, nanti boleh cerita pengalaman peribadi, tetapi mereka juga boleh dikatakan sebagai advocates ataupun parent advocate kepada isu neurodiversity. Sebenarnya ketiga-tiga daripada kami yang ada di atas pentas ini ada ahli keluarga, anak kami yang neurodiverse. Nanti kita akan bincang istilah neurodiverse ni, kita akan cuba bagi definisi tentang neurodiverse ni, sebab ramai yang guna istilah neurodiverse ni tapi sebenarnya kita sendiri tak tahu apakah maksud sebenar neurodiverse. Kita merangkumkan pelbagai autism ada, ADHD ada dan sebagainya. Hari ini kita bersama dengan pakar yang mungkin boleh merungkai sedikit masalah ataupun cabaran yang kita hadapi bila kita sebut tentang neurodiverse. Jadi saya nak kenalkan yang di kiri saya dahulu, iaitu Dr. Choy Sook Kuen. Saya panggil dia SK. Boleh panggil SK ini? Boleh. Kakak SK. Beliau adalah pengasas dan juga pemilik kepada Oasis Place. Oasis Place ini saya dah biasa pergi. Saya dan Nori hantar anak kami Timo ke Oasis Place, iaitu satu pusat intervensi transdisciplinary yang terbesar, antara yang terbesar di Malaysia, untuk individu yang mempunyai perbezaan untuk belajar, learning differences, learning difficulties, termasuklah autism dan juga neurodevelopmental conditions. Kita boleh bincang apakah neurodevelopmental conditions yang lain yang ada di bawah Oasis Place ini. Di bawah kepimpinan SK, Oasis Place telah menjadi satu community, bukan hanya community yang menghimpunkan mereka yang memerlukan intervensi dan ahli-ahli keluarga mereka, tetapi sebenarnya saya sendiri melihat community yang terdiri daripada pakar terapis. Ya, dan ini satu cabaran untuk Malaysia sebab di peringkat perkhidmatan kesihatan awam kita memang tak cukup. Dan saya ada sedikit pengalaman, 1 tahun saya berada di Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia. Tapi kalau pergi ke Oasis Place, of course it's private, ada mereka pakar ataupun terapis yang pakar dalam bidang seperti occupational therapy yang boleh membantu sensory integration, pertuturan ataupun speech, music therapy, termasuk juga penilaian psikologi dan juga intervention. It was founded in 2014 and has served children, adolescents and adults needs. Dia bukan hanya kanak-kanak saja, ya, sebab hari ini kita nak bincang soal kelangsungan hidup mereka yang ada neurodiversity ni. Sebab kita sentiasa cakap tentang kanak-kanak saja, tetapi we don't forget, but we don't talk enough about what happens when they become adults. It doesn't go away, it's still there, ya. Dr. Choy, pengalaman ataupun latar belakang yang sedikit bagi saya lah menarik sebab she's a medical doctor. Tetapi ada pengalaman dalam bisnes. Dia pernah jadi seorang perunding perusahaan, management consultant sama dengan sebuah syarikat besar di Malaysia dalam bidang corporate finance. So dia bawa pelbagai latar belakang lah, latar belakang sebagai seorang doktor, latar belakang sebagai seorang parent, latar belakang sebagai seorang educator, latar belakang sebagai seorang yang arif dengan dunia korporat. Jadi looking forward to listen to what SK has to say. Panelis kedua saya di hujung sana adalah Datin Anit Kaur Randawa. Beliau adalah seorang peguam dan beliau adalah seorang partner di sebuah syarikat guaman di Malaysia. Tetapi lebih daripada itu, beliau adalah seorang ibu kepada 3 orang anak dan anak sulung beliau telah pun membuka ruang ini untuk beliau mencuburi peranan sebagai seorang parent advocate. Beliau juga adalah pengerusi bersama Jawatan Kuasa Bar Council on Persons with Disabilities dan juga naib Presiden Undang-Undang of the Medical Legal Society of Malaysia. Kita akan bincang tentang cabaran yang dihadapi berdasarkan kepada undang-undang yang sedia ada di Malaysia dan apa yang kita boleh buat untuk memastikan bahawa undang-undang ini dapat dipinda supaya perkhidmatan yang lebih baik dapat diberikan kepada semua di Malaysia. Yang menarik juga beliau berdua, Anit dan juga SK, bersama-sama dengan partner-partner yang lain termasuk isteri saya Nori, juga ada podcast dia lagi popular daripada Keluar Sekejap, dan podcast tu nama dia Kita Family Podcast. Saya rasa dia punya cadence dalam seminggu sekali lah, lebih kurang seminggu sekali, dan memberi tumpuan kepada dan mempromosikan soal neurodiversity dan juga autism in the community and as a national voice. So if you haven't subscribed or listened to it, please listen to Kita Family Podcast. Yeah, Kita Family Podcast. Okay. Let's get straight to the discussion, and I wanted to start off by painting a picture of how I understand neurodiversity in Malaysia. Tapi sebelum itu mungkin saya nak mulalah sebab hari ini sebenarnya kita tidak berhimpun pada hari International Day of Disabilities. We're actually here for the PPSEAWA International Day of Peace. And we try to join the dots between peace and disabilities. Dan bila saya dengar, when I heard the video message by the president of PPSEAWA International, I was very moved by what she said, because she said that peace is not just the absence of conflict, but the active presence of justice, dignity and inclusion. That's such a wonderful definition of peace. Maknanya keamanan ini bukan hanya ketiadaan perang, tetapi ianya juga adalah kehadiran aktif, keadilan, maruah ataupun kemuliaan individu, human dignity, dan juga keterangkuman ataupun inclusion. I thought that's fantastic, because if we just see peace in terms of the absence of war is a very graphic thing, but we miss a lot of things that have to do with justice in peacetime. And there's a lot of that I think we need to talk about today in the context of people with disabilities. Before that, since it is also the International Day of Peace, I wanted to take this opportunity. This is not related to this at all, but to make it relatable to what we are discussing today. Officially 60,000 people, but some reports saying now more than 300,000 people have been killed in the most evil humanitarian crisis and genocide of our lifetimes. And of course, what I'm referring to is what is happening in Gaza today. And I think any event that speaks to peace on the International Day of Peace must continue to highlight the genocide that's happening in Gaza, and to continue to encourage everyone. And you might feel that your voice does not matter, You might feel that the country that's perpetrating this ethnic cleansing and this genocide does it with impunity because it doesn't listen to anybody, because the one country that it may listen to also doesn't care about what we feel. In that helplessness, in that despondency of wanting to do something and not being able to see results, I urge all of you to continue to do so. Even if it's posting something on social media, even if it's sharing news with somebody, with your friends, with your family on WhatsApp, it is important. Because if there is evil, the biggest evil that we will ever see in our lifetime today, it is this. There are many evils in this world, but this is unspeakable. This is unspeakable. This happens with no due care to morality, to international law, to compassion. It just signifies that might is right. And I think we have to continue to speak up, stand up against what is happening. And you can imagine the people who have been denied medication, they've been denied medical treatment, especially people with disabilities in the Gaza Strip right now. So I think we take a moment to just reflect on that before we proceed on our discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate Malaysia Day, 16th of September on Tuesday, we have this bonus holiday tomorrow given to us by the Prime Minister. Thank you. We reflect on a country that is diverse. You know, my wife Nori always reminds me that we have a competitive advantage compared to other countries when it comes to accommodating people with disabilities, including people with neurodivergent conditions. Why? Sebab kita dah biasa dengan diversity. Tapi kita selalu melihat diversity daripada kanta bangsa ataupun kaum, agama dan juga mungkin Tanah Melayu, Sabah, Sarawak dan sebagainya. Tetapi sebenarnya bila kita meraihkan kepelbagaian itu, kita lupa bahawa kita harus melihat kepelbagaian itu bukan hanya dari segi kaum, bukan hanya dari segi agama, tetapi juga dari segi our own lives and our own backgrounds and our own health status. So if we are so big, Malaysia truly Asia, celebrating our diversity when it comes to ethnicity and religion, why can't we do the same when it comes to neurodiversity? When it comes to people with physical disabilities, kalau kita boleh jadi champion kepada kepelbagaian dari segi culture, kebudayaan, agama dan sebagainya dan menjadikan itu sebagai kekuatan kita sampai jadi slogan Malaysia Truly Asia, let's truly celebrate our diversity in all of its forms. Not just ethnicity, not just race, not just religion, but background, neurodiversity, physical disabilities, background, socioeconomic background, languages, then truly we will be a diverse country. So I think that's the context in which I wanted to start this. So the number of children diagnosed here in Malaysia with autism rose 663% in the past decade, from about almost 7,000 in 2013 to 53,000 in 2023. Of course, a big part of it is more awareness of diagnosis. It is not suddenly more people became autistic. It was because we understood autism better. Early diagnosis remains delayed, especially in rural areas where screening tools and specialists are limited. Sekarang ni hanya 33 pusat autism di nationwide against a population which suggests maybe over 400,000 neurodivergent children may exist in Malaysia. Ini the whole spectrum lah. Now later we'll ask SK what that means. Di Sabah saja, data pada tahun ini menunjukkan bahawa 6,000 lebih autistic children, but just a very handful of trained teachers for early childhood support. As these kids, macam saya sebutkan tadi, as they grow older, they face barriers untuk meneruskan pengajian mereka. Nak pergi ke IPT, nak pergi ke tertiary education susah. Nak dapat learning accommodation. Kalau kita pergi ke sekolah antarabangsa, they're quite used to having learning accommodation. If you're neurodivergent, you get extra time for your examination for that matter. Tapi kalau pergi sekolah kebangsaan, it's tough. It's not easy. Sometimes you're met with puzzled looks. What is this learning accommodation? Tak boleh. And limited pathways into work. I did some work when I was Minister of Youth and Sports. about how we can train some of the neurodivergent kids, or rather teens, young adults at our vocational institutes. Adults with autism are often forgotten in national policy sebab kita selalu sebut tentang kanak-kanak. So I think we should elevate the discourse not just for kids but also for adults, because all these kids who have been diagnosed with autism over the last 10 years, suddenly 600% increase. Guess what? They're young adults now. So we need to figure out how to include them in the conversation and also find pathways for them. So the pattern is clear. Neurodivergent children face layered discrimination and systemic neglect at every stage of life. Okay, saya nak mula dengan SK dulu. SK, I've given a long, rambling preamble, but I hope it's useful in setting the stage for the discussion today. But maybe SK, let's go to basics. I want to explore your mind in its multifacetedness. Doctor, educator, somebody who's familiar with business. But let's go to the doctor part of it first. Can you tell us when KJ is spewing neurodivergent, what do I mean by this?
Sure, thank you. KJ, thank you for the introduction, and apa khabar sekalian? And thank you for the privilege of coming to chit-chat. I think the sharing from all the facets. And coming back then to definasi lah, ya. If I can just take it from, bring it down to very simple. Neurodiverse ada dua parts of the perkataannya, definasinya. Neuro refers to the brain and diverse is different. The term neurodiversity is also fairly new, both in the public domain as well as the professional domain. Now, as new as only about 2019, there was a movement that put forth this definition of neurodiversity. The brain being different comes from many aspects. The way the brain respond or react to stimulus, as an example, the way the brain will express itself in communication. So, because it covers, as we have heard from Puan Mona's opening speech, and Khairy, you mentioned, it covers many different diagnosed conditions, from autism, ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette syndrome, dan lain-lainnya, including the mental health challenges, which is now getting more to the forefront, anxiety, depression. So neurodiversity is having a brain that responds differently in many different aspects. If I can pull it back in context to autism, because as I mentioned earlier, there are many definitions or diagnostics attributing to neurodiversity. If I may, just to put in context, autism, we are looking at two aspects of challenges. One, social communication. Therein, they are always awkward. They are not able to relate. They don't have the eye contacts. They are so different. And the other aspect of autism in the neurodiverse individual is they are better, they perform better, they behave better, they are more able when there is a routine or a structure in as much and every aspect of what they are doing. So in autism, we look at two particular areas: their need for routine, or what we deem as repetitive actions, as well as their challenge in the social, especially in the social setting. But I think what is important, I like the audience to continue to share this, what we deem as the social definition of neurodiversity is to embrace all different brain and all different ability.
Anit, sebagai seorang peguam, ada tak definisi legal neurodiversity di Malaysia right now according to the law? Contoh saya tak pasti akta OKU, does it define this thing, and is it necessary to do so?
No, it doesn't. That's the short answer. We have Persons with Disabilities Act that just defines disabled. So, orang kurang upaya. That's it. It's a tidak keupayaan. So I know there's been a move to say, let's not use the word tidak upaya, let's use kelainan upaya. Well, that's just sweetening something, but if we look at the law, we have to go by conventions. We need to go by where we came from. Malaysia has ratified international conventions, and everywhere it's disabled. So it's not a bad word. It just means that someone is, as Kakak SK said, different. Do we need a definition? I would say no. As long as we know someone is disabled and they need some form of assistance and that is provided, a label does not change very much.
Great. We'll come back to the legal challenges later about gaps in the present law. Before we get into some of the policy, I mean, you know, there are a lot of friendly faces here today, many women leaders especially who are members, if not friends of PPSEAWA. I just wanted to get this conversation to be a bit more personal. And you know, I know you're both comfortable to speak about this. That's why I dare to approach this. Can you tell us about your boys who are diverse or neurodiverse, and how you reacted to it initially, and what has your journey been up to today?
Thank you. Just before I start on sharing about our son Joshua, I was just thinking if I can go backwards to the first question about the legal framework. I'm reminded to share that under the provisions of OKU, I think it was the year when Puan Wan Aziza was the Minister of Women, and the Deputy Minister Hannah Yeoh did, in her efforts, coined a different category of registration. Now that's very important because many families are maybe more reluctant to register their children who are autistic or with learning challenges with the authorities. However, there is now a category for autism. Yeah, so I think that's important to know.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's a subcategory.
It's a subcategory
under masalah pembelajaran.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that allows a lot of benefits.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And
back to Joshua.
Back to Joshua. Joshua's story, in fact, we have both Chokman, my husband, and Aaron, my eldest son, is here. I want to acknowledge them taking time with us. I've just come back last week. Our son, Joshua, the neurodivergent individual in the family. We are very blessed. We dropped him to his A-levels school in the UK. It was with high trepidation, anxiety, I have to say, even checking in on him even only yesterday, that as parents, we were going to start liberating Joshua, our neurodivergent child. Our story really goes back. We were, again, very fortunate when he was just 18 months. Now, this is very unusual in the context at that point. Khairy, you mentioned how services are inadequate. Perhaps even the professional training is still has got much to progress. He had typical signs, including no eye contact. He certainly was very hyperactive, and I remember very vividly when I was alerted, he did not respond to his name. He is actually our second child, and as parents, we are hopeful. Aaron had very advanced milestones, no concerns, and we thought we would give him a bit more time. But a long story short, we are again very fortunate in Chokman's birthday. family gathering. One of his aunts is a pediatrician, a neurologist, and she flagged me. She took me aside and she said, "So Kuen, if you don't mind me pointing out, that was, if I have to use the word, it was almost like a relief."
The girl, so
Because we actually have around us, my husband's an educationist, we have friends in the medical circle, and I was still having visiting matron services for both. He was 18 months, but I kept this service. It was a relief because we knew something wasn't typical, but there was now a definition to help us move on. So from there on, and in fact, please, as a family, we decided to have this story documented so that we can share it to encourage on Oasis website. So from 18 months, where do we go get help? We have a professional who alerted us. We didn't get our help at that point in Malaysia. We had to go to Singapore Services, who has had a lot more experience even at that time with younger. Remember, he was only 18 months. And our journey started from there. We involved ourselves, the whole family, from our immediate family. Even Aaron came with us to therapy sessions. We traveled as a family. We learned as a family. And that actually was the journey that took myself to return back to the professional realm of healthcare and started Oasis. So I'm so grateful that today there's opportunity to share the journey through the different age span. We are currently living the teenage.
wonderful. And I've had the privilege of also watching Joshua grow up. He's very good friends with my eldest son, Jibril, and I had a chance to hug him before he went off to Brighton.
Yes.
So we hope for all the best. I understand for Chokman Yu it's not easy to see Joshua on his own. This is going to be the big test. But he looked confident, and I'm happy he's settling in.
Thank you. Week 3, we are still winning.
Inshallah. Anit, again, acknowledging your partner also, Sanjeev, Dr. Sanjeev is here. What about your story?
Our story was different because Nirav, our eldest, was our first child, and you don't know any different. So, like Kaka SK had somebody to compare to, we didn't. But our second child came about, and he met all the milestones, or so we thought. And then our second child came about, and it was Tarish, a year and 11 months later. And when they were growing up a bit more, then the school flagged out once, and I took it to the pediatrician, and he said, "What? They say he doesn't hold a pencil, or he's not writing? Change the school." Not what you want to hear, but it's okay. They are the experts. But we knew no different. And then later on, at one point, it just became quite obvious we needed to do something because he was not blending so well in school, and the school kept complaining. And we finally got an appointment when he was nearly 5. And I remember when calling up for an appointment, they said the waiting list was 1 year. So I have to acknowledge the fact that Sanjeev was in the medical profession. That helped because the doctor saw the list, called Sanjeev up and said, "Oh, I see this name scheduled for a year later. Is this your son?" Because, thank God, Sanjeev was looking after her parents as a doctor, as a cardiologist. And Sanjeev said yes. She says, "Okay, I'm bringing forward the appointment." And after 2 rounds of putting him through what my mom called an examination at the age of 5, and my late mom used to come along with me, and she used to say, "This boy has to perform. It's like they're made to perform." But yes, that's the procedure. Then Dr. Rajni looked at and said, "Do you know he has Asperger's syndrome? And have you heard of that?" And that's how it started. Thankfully, we went through therapy. There was a lot of adjustments to be made. We struggled with even school placements, and I remember being super anxious because we knew he was good enough for mainstream school, but we didn't know where the right one was. And having seen what government school is like, we knew that was not right. But again, we had to disclose that he had a condition. At that point, not many schools were open to it, and the standard line was, "We don't know whether we have the facilities." And thankfully, I thank God's grace for this, that he got an admission, working together with them and then providing shadow aids, and then weaning him off that and making him independent. With us, I think it's been a success because he got his 6 GCSEs, IGCSEs, and then went on to college and has completed pre-U. Not excellent results, but enough to get him to the next step. So right now, he's going to be 20.
Fantastic.
He is currently interning in international school as a teaching assistant, being an assistant teacher to kids like himself. And I need to share this because we all fell off our chair laughing. He came back on the first day of school and said, "Oh, I have a Nirav in my class." And we looked at him, "Huh?" And he said, "Yes, I've got a student called Nirav Raj Singh." And then we fell off our chair laughing because here's Nirav teaching Nirav, right? And then he said, and he cries a lot. And again we laughed because that was him earlier. And then he said, "Oh, and I had to tell him to calm down." Again, we laughed because that was Nirav. Okay, so seeing that story and seeing him do things like teach them suku kata, take them for gym class, teach them basic math because they're all in year 1, is a complete circle.
Anit and SK, just staying on the personal, because this is fascinating, and congratulations on Nirav and Joshua's achievement. Alhamdulillah, Nori and I hope that we've been going through a couple of tough years with Timor. He was at school, now he's at home, because I think puberty was challenging for him. Post-COVID restrictions had a large impact on his comfort level, and the disruption was a bit too much. So we're still trying to get a handle on this. So Nirav and Joshua is are inspirations for us, that better days can be ahead. But sticking to the personal, and since both husbands are in front of us, I wanted to ask. And it's tough to generalize because you can never generalize and say women react this way, men react this way. But in your experiences, SK, how did you react differently to Chokman, and what were the different roles that you played? Anit, did you react a particular way? Did Sanjeev react in a particular way, like brooding, macho guy that he is, saying that this will resolve itself? Because these are things that we also hear outside.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to stereotype friends here, but this is stuff that we hear outside, where sometimes it's one of the parents who are willing to accept it quicker, intervene quicker. The other one says, well, this is something that will go away later.
Okay, I would say this in one sentence. I think with me it was, what do we do next? And straight away it was, let's find this, let's find that. Okay. And I think I always had the hope that we could work through this. Sanjeev, on the other hand, being a typical guy, was, I need to earn more. I need to earn as quick as possible. I need to save for him because, I don't know whether he's going to get to university. I don't know whether he's going to get a job. I need to provide for him when I'm no longer around. So the approaches were totally different. For me, it was working on the child, working to bring out the best potential. And I think as in a typical Indian and Punjabi household, male is the provider, and he was like, oh no, I have to provide, and I have to provide it tomorrow because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So that was our journey.
How about you, SK, with you and Chokman?
So it changed. In the initial, so Chokman is educationist, and we were very lucky that as a family, I alluded that we were traveling together to do intervention. So we responded quite quickly after the initial alert. And our journey was that both of us continued to learn. We were grappling to learn very fast. I think both as a parent and perhaps posture as an educationist, there's a story behind this a little bit. 6 months before Joshua was diagnosed, Chokman started the inclusive kindergarten, called Tree Talk. I am sure Providence was looking at us. We were actually learning how to start an inclusive kindergarten when there was no benchmark. And through that professional journey, in a way, that's why when the diagnosis came, I think that relief to know that we have learned something. In fact, the kindergarten started operating, and this was 6 months before Joshua was diagnosed. In that sense, we had the benefit of learning and journeying together. Because Chokman is also a very ardent chef or cook, he was and continues to be very engaged and supportive in all the makan, which gives him joy. And for us, the privilege of managing Joshua's restricted diet until today, because of food allergies. So there was a lot of parental involvement that was in a way natural to us, that also came alongside our own professional learning. Now, as we journeyed into more academia, then we start to discuss different possibilities. No, Joshua will not go to the UK, but Mama. So I think if I share again about the family, the differences ultimately still home into our love for our children. But we have to fight for the different approach.
I want to walk through the different stages of life for neurodivergent individuals. And I roughly break it up into 3 stages. And I wanted to get your views about where the gaps are and what we can do better. Let's start with early childhood. That affects early detection, access to therapy, and affordability. Yeah, because I think for many of us who have autistic kids, who have kids who are neurodivergent, the diagnosis happens anywhere from 2, 3, 4, sometimes even later 5 years old. There's very limited support as of now. There's very limited numbers of government-funded centers where you can go for intervention. Very limited number of therapists. If you go to a public hospital, you try to get an appointment for speech therapists or occupational therapists. The waiting list is so long, and this is of course structural issue, which we can address a bit later. I mean, that's something maybe I can answer also. But maybe take us through early childhood first. What are the top 1 or 2 things that needs to be done in Malaysia? SK, start with you, then Anit.
Sure. It's very fundamental. Healthcare, education, early childhood, access to if not diagnosis, because we know when there's diagnosis involves very highly skilled professionals. Screening, I think, is the first primary health care. Sebenarnya, our baby book does have screening, including MChat. Yeah, I think the challenge now is with the range of health services, parents able to access public health as well as private health. The consistency in using that screening tool, which is available to both, both at public health and private hospitals, I think needs constant awareness and constant promotion lah. Yeah. So access, as we have experienced, to early diagnosis or screening at least will enable the path to intervention. Yeah. So there's urgency in reactivating or awareness of using the screening or the diagnostic tool, because with a proper diagnosis, we can, as interventionists, shoot sharper lah, as opposed to a broad range or untargeted therapy. For the schools, the cry constantly is, please enroll my child. I would really encourage, and I know I hear there are many educationists in our midst or policymakers. Kalau boleh, early, when you go to preschool, prasekolah, have the inclusion, because the idea of exclusion actually is learned. We have the privilege in learning at Treetop with Chokman that children are children, they play together, and they themselves are enabled to be the advocate that will grow up. Yeah. So access to healthcare, access to mainstream. We don't get too scared. I think the word is scared. Yeah. Just be a carer. Pull out the heart of wanting to be an educator. These children are inquisitive, they are different. Just enable them to come through the door, and then baru maybe try to, with training, so a lot of training is required. Regular training, scheduled training. What is a goal without a plan becomes just a wish.
Anit, maybe can you also touch on that? But also, I'm going to tack on the second stage of life, which is the school years, primary and teen. You've just gone through it with Nirav. That also touches on inclusion at the primary and secondary level, awareness for teachers, exam accommodation. And I caught on one of your episodes, Kita Family, recently, when you guys talking about bullying. Because, I don't want to say naturally, but the tendency for kids who are neurodivergent to be bullied is memang higher lah. Because the kid is different, right? The kid is different. If you know of an autistic person or autistic kids, there's no one similar case to another. They're very different, but they have similar traits. And one of it, as SK said just now, is the social difficulties. So they're a bit awkward, some of them, of course, are a bit more pronounced in their autism or in their characteristics, but those who are able to be together with others at school, they're still a bit different. And of course, kids are going to pick on them. And now we're talking about bullying in Malaysia. Bullying is a big issue in Malaysia because of some of the cases that have happened. So maybe, Anit, talk us through about the worries that you've had. How can we do better at that stage of primary, secondary education? I think SK has touched well on preschool and early childhood.
Okay, so echoing from what Kakak SK said, as parents of neurotypicals, can I just make a cry out? Please don't have a policy to object to neurodivergent kids being included in mainstream class, please. Because sakit hati lah, when the pengetua or the cikgu kata, saya okay, saya boleh terima anak puan, tapi parent-parent lain akan complain. Now, I don't know how to deal with that. The only thing is to tell them that the child is not going to make your child any worse. In fact, it will make the environment better. There will be more empathy. You will learn that somebody is different and how do you deal with it. And to me, that's life skills, because when I joined the workforce, I thought everybody in whoever I met were going to be and have the same values like me, like the way I was brought up. Oh gosh, I was in for a huge shock. People are not the same. You people come from different backgrounds. They have different values. They bring different values to the workforce, and they do things differently. So if we can start this at an early stage, and you're happy to have inclusion, I assure you, your kids are going to be much better prepared for the workforce than I ever was. The thing about schools is they have a streaming, and I need to say that I went into law reform because when I used to be in the corridors of the school where Nirav was, there were a few of us with neurodivergent children, and our one fear was, is the school going to throw our kid out at any point? I started researching the law to say, what can I do if the child is being thrown out, right? And there wasn't much protection. That was quite alarming. And we only had, when Datuk Mazli Malik was Minister of Education, the zero reject policy for KPM, government schools. But private schools, they do as they wish, because they are set up for profit. They are education for profit. For them, if they cannot provide additional support, the child does not perform, they may not want the child in the school. But surely there has to be some form of pastoral care. There has to be setting up of special education needs departments. Oasis Place has been awesome to assist schools to doing that. There has to be individual education plans. I remember this, that, it wasn't so well known that when suddenly in Nirav school there was a special education needs department, and I got a call for the first time to say, we like a meeting and we're going to do an individual education plan. I walked out of there and I cried, because I had been pushing for this for so long and it never happened. It was, this is the syllabus, we have to finish it. You need to try, you need to do it. And Malaysian parents, child falling behind, what's the answer? Tuition. Sikit-sikit, tuition. It's not tuition. It's, for neurodivergent kids, it's intervention, and the right intervention. Sometimes it happens at school. And I remember one time when I went to the school and I told the teacher, I said, Nirav has just been taught a traffic light rule to manage his emotion, green, if he's, how are you feeling today? If he said green, that's all go.
Good, yeah.
Right? Amber, not so great. And if he was in the red zone, it's bad. Okay? That teacher was so enthusiastic, she researched it and she taught it to the class, that it became a routine that everybody was, oh, I'm feeling red today, and somebody else could help them out. So can you imagine a technique that was used for neurodivergence then became something that the teacher used? But they need to be open to it. So these sort of accommodations, the willingness to have a special education needs department, to have space for the child if they're overwhelmed to leave the classroom and come back. Sometimes all they need is to, old style, run around the padang twice, get their emotions regulated, calm down, and then come back in. Things like that, and accommodations are absolutely necessary.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Can I just
Yes, of course, SK.
add to that? And I love how you gave the example of the teacher engaging the classroom. So I'm reminded of Rukun Negara, and I quickly look here. So as educators, or even the Rukun of Kesopanan dan Kesusilaan, it speaks about values. It speaks about togetherness. So in many of the international schools, they do have campaigns. Yeah, every year April is Autism Awareness Month. And I remember in some of the schools that we serve, the children themselves will come up with ideas to learn. So the awareness here is not only at the adult level. If we can include and engage from preschool, prasekolah, it can be done. I just want to encourage that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I think the message of inclusion, as Anit so wonderfully put it, tolonglah jangan ada parent yang bantah kalau ada classmate yang neurodivergent, and then the school is okay with it, then tiba-tiba dah ada petition kata tak boleh and all that. One of the great things that we do, well, Nori does, is she's been running this gym. Inshallah, it'll be open again soon. A gym for all kids. So we don't want to say it's for autistic kids because we want to have their siblings there playing with them. It's a gym where you don't have to say sorry for your kid. Basically, bawa lah semua anak-anak, sama ada anak itu adalah autistic or neurotypical, so that they can play together and they can be together. Because I think they notice if they are not included. Unless, of course, safety is a factor and things like that. I want to move to the third stage. This is the toughest stage because we always, and none of us are there yet, actually, to be honest. This is the stage where our kid becomes an adult. Yeah? And wow, this is like, this is where you have to make really, really tough life decisions. Because bila dia kecil, bila dia still kanak-kanak, remaja, they're still under you, so, legally under you. Now they've become an adult, right? So they have their own life choices. Then you have to start thinking about higher education, employment pathways, what happens in the workplace. We've been fighting for schools to be more inclusive. Now we have to fight for workplaces to be more inclusive. The perjuangan dia dah jadi lebih luas lah. And then, of course, it comes to that, the final part of that stage, which we never really want to talk about, is what happens after us. We're not going to be around forever. Dah lah kita dah, okay, alhamdulillah, if they can get to work, they're independent, but, we'll always worry about them because they're slightly different. Ataupun if they require full-time care. Some of them do require full-time care. What happens after us? So these are tough questions that parents with kids who are autistic or neurodivergent have to answer. I always say, for instance, like for us, for Nori and myself, Timur is our son who's autistic. He's the middle son. So we openly have the conversation of what happens after us with our other two sons, Jibril and Rafe. Because we have to tell them, look, if Timur still requires support, that's on you guys. Rafe is here right now, somewhere down there. He's 10 years old. So it's important to start talking about it early because we don't want them to suddenly feel, it's a responsibility or a burden that Mama Papa gave to me that I was never prepared for it and things like that. So I think this open conversation is important. But coming back to SK and Anit, maybe start with Anit first. Nirav is coming to that age, he's interning already. Are you starting to think about that next stage?
Oh, absolutely. And I think as a lawyer, I had the opportunity last year. Thank you for reminding me, Khairy, because early last year, when we started Kita Family Podcast, soon after that, the president of the bar, Dato' Ezri Abdul Wahab, thank God for him, called me to his office and said, I want to set up a committee for persons with disabilities because I know you guys have been doing a lot of work, so let's set up a committee, but it's going to be an ad hoc committee. And through that committee, you can push for your law reform and whatever you want to fight for legally. And I said, great. So Mira, Samantha and I are co-chairs. Within a month, we were contacted by a counsellor in KKM, within KKM in Penang. Cheng Bao Zong, I would call him Bao, and he was at a loss. Bao was diagnosed as a neurodivergent as an adult at the age of 32. By that time, he'd gone through school life being different, in a Chinese school, with his mom being in the school. Can you imagine? anak cikgu yang tak boleh perform in the second last class, and his mum just plundered through. His sister's brilliant, and he still got to university, and he got a master's in counselling, and he started on as a contract officer in Sungai Bakap, the Klinik Kesihatan Sungai Bakap, and he would provide counselling services. He was very rigid. When I asked him what made him go and get himself diagnosed, it was a series of failed relationships. As Kakak said, social communication disorder. And he was diagnosed to be neurodivergent and autistic. Then he went and got the card OKU. So when he first joined the workforce and he joined as a contract worker, he was tak ada card OKU. Lepas tu ada card OKU, so automatically it got flagged out in the system. When it came to applying for a permanent position, he was rejected because Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Awam said tidak menepati saringan. And what was saringan? The basic kelayakan universiti, kelayakan sarjana muda, and he had masters, so dia berkelayakan. Okay. And then he kept calling up, and he said to me he was at a loss. He called up and SPA said, itulah tak boleh letak dalam writing tapi pasal kad OKU, pasal status OKU.
So dia tak dapat permanent because dia OKU.
Dia tak dapat interview, just to interview sebab kad OKU tidak menepati saringan, and that was syarat KKM through SPA. So we tried, we asked him to go through various channels, including Suhakam, but ultimately we sat him down and said, listen, the only way is let's take this to court. And most OKUs, when we tell them let's take it to court, semua tak mahu Oh, takut, do we have the money? Kalau kita kalah macam mana? Because kalah kena bayar cost. Tapi bersyukur, BAU mempunyai kebolehan, and I think support from the parent, who was a single parent, the mother, and he said, okay, I'm going to do this. Okay. So with the help of Mr. Surendra, we filed a judicial review, and the Bar Council came in as amicus curiae. Amicus curiae is like a friend of the court. So we were able to do that. Long story short, beginning of this year, the Penang High Court actually ruled that he was discriminated against, that he needed to get an interview. After that, he got put as in the reserve list for permanent position. Today, he has been offered that. He is now in Polytechnic Seberang Perai. But it took that one decision, it took that one man to have the courage. You know, as lawyers, we are always ready to take things on, but we need to have the right person who would want to go down that path. And thankfully, he did. So with that, we have a decision that he was discriminated, and it is a legitimate right for a person with disability not to be discriminated in Malaysia. So that's now been established by the court. So we are pushing one step further. We said, can you, like in the Federal Constitution, put that word ketidakupayaan dalam artikel 8?
Sebab artikel 8 untuk makluman adalah artikel yang berkaitan dengan discrimination, equality.
Yes, equality.
Equality, gender.
Yes, gender, place of birth.
But it doesn't include?
It doesn't include disability. So same thing with 12.1. 12.1 is where it says access to education for all. So we would like the word disability to be there so that nobody will be discriminated that tak boleh masuk sekolah sebab dia OKU, tak boleh masuk sekolah sebab dia neurodivergent. So that's how we would like to promote inclusion legally, but it's a tall order. I think you know better than I what it takes to.
Saya kenal ada seorang kawan saya ni, dia sekarang ni keluar daripada parlimen, dia cuti sekarang ni, dia buat podcast. Nanti bila dia balik nanti saya suruh dia buat benda ni.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are waiting for that discrimination to happen, but as you said, they are more susceptible to be bullied.
Yeah.
We have now we're hoping that there will be a tribunal where people can take things, but how many of them know the law? Kalau orang kampung tu, dia orang tahu tak? Boleh ke? That's what we want. But if society themselves tell them and are aware this happens, say, hey, this shouldn't happen to you. Why don't you take action? Pergi jumpa adun. Maybe they will help out. Things like that can make a better Malaysia. So that's what that's what we are trying to promote, to say,
Yeah.
can everybody just be aware of what's around you? If you see someone being discriminated against, try to help them, channel them to the right direction.
SK, sticking on the same theme, one is a professional question, the other one is a personal question. The professional question is, what do you guys do at Oasis Place to prepare these young adults for working life?
Sure.
Because Oasis Place, of course, I've been there many times, but I always see the younger kids, but you also do work with young adults as well, when they're preparing themselves for the real world, so to speak, the working world. So what kind of interventions then at that stage, bila dia dah jadi dewasa, diperlukan sebelum dia join workforce? And secondly, back to Josh again, now he's gone there, you're starting to think ahead. Parents always think ahead, a few years ahead, university. What do you imagine? Now, Josh is independent. He's gone overseas. So your expectations may now be different than a few years ago. So what have you got in store for him?
Sure, thank you. So Oasis Place turned 10 last October. When we started at Oasis Place, we were very aware that there was a service cliff. That's the term they use when the individuals grow towards adulthood. And because of that, we were very intentional to learn and to provide for intervention for the older age group beyond 18. Yeah? So in the world of healthcare, up to 18 is children, pediatric. From then on is adult. Amongst other things, as we mentioned, the key attribute or key support they are looking for is, if I take autism, the social communication. As we all know, when we are in a workplace, skill sebenarnya relatively easy. And this is no different for an individual that neurodiverse. In fact, many a times, we may not, or we are guilty of constantly therapizing the adult. Sebenarnya, they have been learning to be good at what they are able sepanjang hayat dia lah, when you get the intervention, whether at home or in a institution of school, or therapy center. Now, in our experience, we have the privilege to serve the different abilities. The term is access to employment for the individuals who are able, and there are many aspects of getting a job, the interviews, accommodation, not only of the individual. Sebenarnya, we try to get the attention of the employer, because on this side of the line, as an employee, the neurodiverse individual and family has been training all their life. The opportunity is, can we start the awareness of training to the employer? We have had success with individuals being hired to be software engineers with degrees. In fact, many individuals now in Malaysia, we don't have to look. In the past, when we started, we have to look far to the west. Oh, ada contoh. Actually, right in front of us, we have PhDs. Anit mentioned Pao has got masters, and there are many. There are also individuals who may not have the intellectual or cognitive level lah, because our learning ada banyak different level. Now, I want to shout out, please spend some time nanti at the vendors. We have Naksani who are building the talents of the creative side of their ability. Now, in neurodiversity, what I didn't mention earlier is there are many aspects of their talents. Okay, and I'm very mindful. We've had quite a few conversations about the ones with cognitive ability, but there are many also where their creativeness are there. They may have also good intellectual ability, but what is coming forward is the creativeness. Now, to that end, Oasis cannot just work alone, and all the centres that support access to employment really need industry partners. And I need to shout out, if I may, amongst us, Petronas has already activated the Centre of Excellence, yeah? And I know the team is here to support and engage. So there are many levels. So what we want to say, and I have to also mention I'm employable, the whole team there, their aspiration, including another organization like Gamuda. There are many more now who are working towards the gap besar. So let us step in every possibility from Oasis, from our industry partners and many stakeholders. Now coming back to Joshua. The young man journeyed through, we mentioned his diagnosis of autism, somewhere around 7 to 8. His diagnosis was transferred to dual exceptional. So Chokman and I kata, apa ni dual exceptional? It appears that he is highly intellectual, he is gifted, he's not part of 15 or 20%, he is part of 1%. Now, if you think that's terribly joyful, we are so proud of him, but that again becomes a real minority that has to work on a lot of combined challenges. Yeah. So as a gifted dual exceptional, meaning whilst on one part his intellect has surfaced with a lot of intervention. Our family has travelled worldwide. We are very blessed because of my work and also involvement in something called SENIA, Special Education Network International of Asia. I want to encourage kalau ada guru-guru, they are very embracing of Malaysian educators. There's a lot of international educators who can share their resources. Coming back to Joshua, is this. He appears to be very mathematically inclined. We are praying and hoping he will guide us. Hala di mana? Is it academia? He has many platforms from the entrepreneurship that the family holds to academia. I think the answer is we hope we can engage with him and involve him, just like any typical parents. Like we would engage Aaron, macam mana, pergi mana, which subject, where do you want to land? That is our prayer. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna now get people to jump in and ask questions and share your thoughts, share your experiences. Kalau ada pengalaman pribadi yang rasa relevant dan sesuai untuk perbincangan kita pada petang ini. I know Anit wants to share some slides, but we can save that till later. We will do that as a roundup because I've seen what it is, and I think it's nice to end on that note. So dengan ini saya buka kepada puan-puan, tuan-tuan. Kalau ada soalan, kalau ada pengalaman, jangan ada ceramah. Boleh kenalkan diri dan komen yang ringkas dan padat. Yes, sila. Ada mikrofon di kiri dan kanan. Yeah.
Okay. Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Faizur Farouk. Can call me Benny. I'm a founder of Hammerface Martial Arts Academy, and she fights self-defense for education, women and children. So where we run martial arts and self-defense programs for youth as well. So in our gym, we already have a few neurodivergent individuals from child and adults as well training with us, and it's been a very positive experience and outcomes. So because we're always looking to improve, especially for participants with different sensory or communication needs, can I ask a question? What are some practical ways coaches like us in high energy environments like martial arts can adapt their teaching style or class structure so our neurodiverse participant can thrive without feeling singled out? So this is my question.
What a wonderful question. What a wonderful question. Yeah, SK, maybe you're the expert, your Oasis Place. Now you've got somebody who's running a martial arts gym with neurodiverse clients or training with them, asking as a coach, how can we adjust our sessions to make them feel, to get the best out of them? Any tools that you can share with?
Okay, I'll give the parental aspect later. Please hear the technical one first.
Okay, yeah.
Very important parental aspect. Benny, first, thank you and congratulations for embracing inclusion. The movement aspects in martial art already is a very important, the word technically we use is to help them calm, regulate. I think if you have opportunity to provide more training sessions to all your trainers would be a start. Having groups that are smaller. Now there's the commercial aspect of when you do the class, be good to be large numbers, yeah? But being mindful that maybe the sound as martial arts, I can only imagine ada banyak whoo, ha, right? Now, in fact, that sound in itself is therapeutic. Breathing in sports, that's why Chokman is very excited about sports, and Khairy, we were so excited when you came to the all-inclusive sport. Sports and movement is, kalau tak dapat specific therapy, I like to encourage parents to ensure or support your children at whatever age. When I say children, I'm a child to my parents who are 90. Movement. Small, be aware of sensitivity to sounds.
Yeah.
You want to add? Yep.
Okay, so as a parent, I can tell you that Nirav has gone through ninja class at the kids gym, the We Rock the Spectrum kids gym, and he's actually enjoyed it. So any form of sport is good, but you need to adjust it. Sometimes they're not ready. We tried it early, he wasn't ready, stopped. Then you try it later. As Kakak said, movement is so important. So I want to have a shout out. I saw Ir just now. She does hippotherapy, and that's something that even in BPKI they do riding for the disabled. Things like that have, facilities like that are important. But when you are in a session, there is a lot more adjustment to do when you have neurodivergent kids. They may not be ready to go into a mainstream class. It may be important to start with a smaller group before giving them a chance to integrate, and if it doesn't work, come back. So those sort of adjustments are super important.
Yeah, and maybe I would add, of course, susah kalau kita nak expect all the coaches to go through, break training and all that, but maybe get from people who can offer some of these tools, things like tools for de-escalation. Because when you're in the combat sports environment, the tendency, kalau you're neurodiverse, to escalate. I mean, something trigger dia lah. So at that point in time, having tools to be able to get them to regulate and de-escalate, I think is very important, and those things can be trained in a very short space of time. Love to have you guys work together. Yeah. Okay, any other questions ataupun komen? Saya nampak ada 3 di sana puan yang pakai tudung kuning ni, ha. Okay.
Terima kasih Tuan Musi, yang saya hormati Madam Presiden, yang saya kasihi para hadirin. Saya berbesar hati dapat pegang mic ni. Saya adalah ahli PPSEAWA lebih kurang dah berapa tahun, tapi tak ada apa aktiviti lah, cuma sebagai ahli biasa. Saya berbesar hati dan bersukacita dah 2 kali saya ucap tahniah kepada ahli jawatankuasanya yang dipimpin oleh Madam yang bekerja kuat, bersungguh-sungguh untuk menghidupkan semula PPSEAWA. PPSEAWA dah lama, saya dah tahu, saya dah jadi ahli lebih kurang dalam 20 tahun. Dah tua dah ni, dah kira masa kata bye-bye, tak lama lagi tak tahulah. Umur kalau panjang lah kan. Tapi insyaAllah saya ucapkan tahniah kepada Madam Presiden dan ahli jawatankuasanya yang telah bekerja kuat, bertungkus lumus untuk mengadakan majlis-majlis sehingga kepada hari ini adalah tahun yang kedua mereka mengadakan jamuan seperti ini, dan saya bersyukur Allah panjangkan umur saya dan dapat bersama-sama pada petang ini. Yang itu saya ucap tahniah, setinggi tahniah kepada ahli jawatankuasa PPSEAWA yang dipimpin oleh Madam yang dikasihi. Terima kasih mengikuti junjung siliah daripada ibunya Datin Rahmah. Saya sendiri dah lebih kurang dalam 10-20 tahun kot jadi ahli biasa sajalah. Orang panggil kita datang, orang suruh pergi kita pun pergi. Terima kasih atas jemputan.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih. Okey, di belakang tadi ada tuan yang berbaju merah.
Okay, bismillah. Assalamualaikum semua.
Salam.
Alright, terima kasih kerana dapat hadir ke majlis ni. Alright, saya sangat berpuas hati. Okay, saya bapa kepada anak autism. Saya nak tanya sesuatu pasal kita sebagai rakyat Malaysia kan. Saya dapat detect anak saya autism pada usia dia 2 tahun. Okay. So, bila saya tengok kawan-kawan saya ataupun naturally dekat kampung lah semua cerita dia, kita tengok kadang-kadang kita perasan mereka ada simptom yang autism ni, kemungkinan dan saya, sebab kita faham, kita sebagai ada bapa ataupun ibu pada itu autism, kita faham. Cumanya saya nak tanya, bagaimanakah kita nak buat orang dekat Malaysia ni supaya faham apa yang kita cuba sampaikan kat dia, supaya dia tak terlewat untuk mengetahui anak dia adalah autism ataupun neurodiversity ni. Sebab bila dia melangkah ke sekolah darjah 1, tiba-tiba kita dapat tahu your son or your daughter ni ada masalah, macam susahlah nak belajar. Jadi benda tu dah terlewat sebadah 7 tahun. So soalan saya kat sini, macam mana kita nak bagi derang semua orang ni faham agar kita boleh selesaikan masalah ni seawal yang mungkin. Sebab diagnosis ni memang mahal. Memang nak kata mahal lah kita dapat. Cumanya macam mana kita nak bagi derang sedar yang benda ni penting untuk anak-anak kita dan bila dah adult nanti lah. Assalamualaikum.
Salam. Nama tuan?
Oh, saya Nur Azman bin Yaakob.
Okay, terima kasih Cik Nur Azman. I think very fundamental question lah, soalan yang penting yang masih lagi kita berdepan dengan keadaan ini, di mana mungkin yang ada di dalam dewan ini yang ada pengalaman, kita dah biasa dengan benda ni, tetapi saya rasa ramai lagi yang belum sama ada kesedaran ataupun ada peluang untuk mendapat intervensi dan juga diagnosis yang tepat berkenaan dengan anak mereka. Dan macam Cik Nur Azman kata tadi, bila benda tu dah surface masa sekolah rendah, it's already too late because you've missed 3-4 years already of possible intervention. What's the latest situation di Malaysia ni? I mean, kesedaran tu semakin meningkat, and I've been of course di Kementerian Kesihatan on all of that, tetapi benda macam ni kita masih lagi dengar lah. It's still a reality. Mungkin Anit first, then SK.
Okay, saya faham kerana kadang-kadang untuk bagi tahu orang lain, dia rasa macam you nak label anak dia kan, dia macam jadi stigma. Sebagai bapa kepada seorang anak autisma, maybe the way to broach the topic would be to say, saya pernah lalui, ini perjalanan saya, dan lebih baik untuk check jika anak perlukan intervensi awal, kita boleh buat. Kalau tak check tu memang mungkin akan lewat. So kita cuba, there's no harm in checking. Kalau kita maybe you as a parent, if you say it that way and it comes from a place of concern, that parent may accept it a bit better. Sebab saya faham, sebab ramai guru-guru yang pernah call saya to say, sebagai seorang parent, boleh tak you cakap dengan parent ini? Dia macam denial. Mungkin dia akan dengar daripada you lebih daripada kami sebagai guru atau masyarakat yang like greater. So as a parent, sometimes you are able to speak better. Kalau
but that's a tough conversation kan, macam
it is so
tadi,
tough.
you contoh tahun pertama di sekolah, first year tahun 1 kan, you have an autistic son, and then so parent ni cikgu dah tahu dan cikgu bisik kat you, by the way Datin, boleh tak cakap dengan Puan Habibah ni, maybe anak dia pun ni, how would you approach this Puan Habibah? Takkan dia kata, Puan Habibah, by the way I think your son is autistic also. I mean, what would, share with us how you would do it.
Okay, so I'll give you 2 examples. One worked very well and the other one worked disastrously. So the one that I actually spoke to, and I just said, I started the conversation asking whether the son was struggling in any way. And when she said yes, and then I related my struggles with Neura and how we went, and I said, I am no expert. I don't know whether your son is autistic, but maybe just get a check, because intervention helps. And if the doctor says there's nothing wrong, carry on. If the doctor gives you some ideas, intervention may help. And that parent took it positively and went for the diagnosis. That was one. The other one turned around to me and said, my spouse is not supportive. I think you're a lawyer. I want advice on divorce. So that tanked completely the other way. Okay, so I've had both ends of the spectrum, but generally they don't, macam mereka tak kecil hati when you say my child is also struggling. This is my journey. I'm not saying your child is the same, because every child is different. We often say that you meet one neurodivergent, you will not find another one like him or her, right? So it's about mungkin cuba just relate your experience. That was how I did it. I don't know whether it would work. I've had both ends of the spectrum, but we could try.
SK, that was from personal example. Cik Nur Azman punya soalan tadi dari segi kesedaran, dari segi accessibility and things like that. You've been in this space for so long, longer than many of us. Do you think it's improved, and can it improve even more?
Definitely. Terima kasih untuk soalan tu. It's really good to have the opportunity. So the answer to that is there is a lot more to do. But to address the question, General Rasman, I think the word is feeling safe, feeling unsafe. Kalau boleh, to have a safe person will be a friend. Okay. If you remember me recounting when Chokman's aunt, I remember her words, if you don't mind. Yeah, because it can be very challenging, even though kami professional, but it's so personal. Yeah. So in the practice in Oasis, we also get to meet parents who are ready to do every recommended intervention, and parents who have come to get help because the school compel. Kalau tidak mari dapatkan diagnosis atau intervensi, maaf ya, tak boleh masuk sekolah. Now, I have to be very watchful about this. As we have zero policy, I think that's why kesedaran constantly is in perpetuating. That means selama-lamanya, sepanjang hayat kami and the next generation. Because we will have family, so kesedaran in public, in your community, in your household, in the schools is number one, because that's the supportive environment. Kalau boleh find a safer relationship or somebody who has experienced it, a parent, usually a kind teacher makes a very big difference as opposed to a punitive or scared teacher. It all comes back to, kalau boleh, somebody who has got experience, cares. Dia mungkin tak tahu ciri-ciri tapi cares. For the child, why do we speak up for the child? When the condition of, that's why it's masalah pembelajaran. They cannot progress this term. No need to wait for next year. Kalau term by term dia tak dapat progress, it's time to get help. So biasanya parents dapatkan tuition, no problem parents dapatkan tuition. Tapi bila tuition pun tak dapat progresskan masalahnya, it's time to go to the next level of help. So that I think may be one other approach. I know as a professional, if I wear a professional hat, memang I tak sabar, parents please come for help, please come for help. Tapi everybody needs to be ready at where they are lah. And I think the phrase "it takes a whole village" really is meaningful because different people are different at different stages. Kalau kami dapat nudge sikit, mungkin akan mencepatkan the access lah to help.
Thank you. Kita masih ada masa untuk satu dua lagi soalan. Yeah.
Can I have one question?
But you're the MC.
MC, yeah, but I also have a question.
Oh, okay, boleh.
Boleh,
Boleh MC boleh. Boleh. Sila MC.
Okey, apakah implikasi jangka panjang terhadap masa depan kanak-kanak autism dan yang sama ni sekiranya intervensi awal tidak diberikan ataupun tidak dikesan sejak awal lagi, like as early as 2 years old, kan? Okay.
When you miss the early intervention question, this is a great question. You know, have you missed that sweet spot? SK, I mean, you're the expert.
And this is a very good follow-up, which I didn't address in Cik Norzal. The brain is plastic. This is a new term I like to introduce. Memang the convention in the past, if you miss this window, susah. Okay, sebenarnya, even if you look at patients of stroke, when they have something happen to their brain, you can do some level of repair. So the answer to that, if I can encourage everybody, it is never too late. Even when they are adult, I remember that when we bring in international trainers, it is to share that message. Please come and get some level of help to ease symptom or to enable different abilities to come out. The difficulty in delaying early intervention is sama juga to typical individual. You get very difficult complication. Perhaps the one that I want to put forward most important is the mental health. That they are feeling unworthy. All the dis, D-I-S. In medical term, we use a lot of this, that. So, if anything at all, the long term that we need to look for and support is their level of happiness, the ability to be part of all of us, which is why the call of today's discussion, to have peace.
I think that too. I mean, a great answer.
I think that was a great answer, but all I can say is, even if okay, firstly, this is not a penyakit. So, people say, kalau macam cancer, you tak pergi dapat intervensi awal or rawatan awal, it will lead to death. No, neurodiversity is not like that, as Kakak just said. So it's never too late, one, and the desired result may not be so quick. It may take longer, but do try, definitely, because some children just react faster, and with a little bit of intervention, you see them fly. But just because you say you missed the boat, I'm not going to try, let's not have that. Let's just say we're still going to try. Kita cuba, kita usaha.
I think a call out to the policy makers, kalau boleh, the kesempatan ini, is the system is punishing. Kalau must habis primary school by 12, but sekarang adanya accommodation, you can extend it by 3 more years and not chronological. So things like that sometimes is more punishing than the actual ability to work with the brain.
Hari ni dunia agak terbalik sebab MC nak tanya soalan, suami kepada panelis pun nak tanya soalan. Jadi saya pun tak biasa dengan keadaan yang sangat hostile ini, ya. Tapi sebelum kita bagi ruang kepada Datuk Sanjeev, ada Puan dia bagi dulu. Sanjeev, not because I'm not recognizing you, but the lady is at the microphone first.
Thank you very much. I'm Wazir Jahan, a life member of PPSEAWA and a trustee of PPSEAWA. I'm from Penang. I think the only one who's come from Penang to attend this very important fire chat. I just like to say that in Penang, at least, there is a very kindly humanistic policy to take children out of special schools with special needs, to bring them back into the normal school. So children who are suffering from, neurodiversity, they can actually enjoy a normal school experience. It's just that the schools can't cope. And after 6 months, these parents are asking us to take these kids back. And the ministry is not allowing that. Because they said we already have this policy of integration and we want to make sure it works. So I have also been to New Zealand and Australia where they have these children integrated into normal schools like for 20, 30 years ago. And Malaysia is way behind, of course, but they have special teaching assistants for these schools. And even like in UK, which is like, they have this very tiered hierarchical system where grammar schools are neglected. The kids with special needs are taken out of the normal class. Like Jamie Oliver was one of them, he was dyslexic. Taken out of the class to go to another special class where they can be taught. So there's so many ways in which these kids can be helped in a normal school environment. And our school, now the School for Children with Special Needs, has been converted to a workshop for the kids who have finished school to come back to learn special trades and special skills. So there is a way in which this can evolve into a long-term kind of project where NGOs can work more closely with the ministries. But the ministries themselves have to provide very good teaching assistants who can help these kids especially, and I think Malaysia is way behind that, yes.
Any comments about where we are? For us on stage, we were fortunate enough to look for alternatives, private education, basically. What is the thinking right now at KPM? As much as we know, as much as you know, maybe Anit first, SK.
Actually, I can't answer that question. I don't know what the education policies are. I only know that KPM has got a Borang C. When a child is going to sit for SPM or any major exam, that you have to fill in if you need accommodation. And it has to be signed off with a doctor's letter as these are the accommodations needed. So that's a Borang C that is available for accommodations. Beyond that, I am not aware of any policy for teaching assistants.
Are we able to see public versions of Oasis Place sprouting throughout the country, providing this additional support in the future, SK?
We've been very fortunate. We've funded by a foundation. We've had opportunity to train in 4 public schools, Sekolah PPKI di Klang. What I want to share is this. the educators that we have encountered are highly dedicated. The gap there is continuous professional education, which KPM provides for education. Kalau boleh, it needs to be selit-selit dengan also provision for special education. I think this is a call that is not new. As far as I remember, when I masuk dalam this industry, we've had these conversations before. I think the action point is to plan it in. Of course, we only had the privilege for 4 schools, and KPM has got a huge burden. Yeah, there have been many initiatives. The other challenge is how to sustain the initiative. The initiative for screening has been there in years to past. You have Project Linus or Linus. So I think I am more a hopeful person. I think that's why we have forums like this, that the voice is not here, does not stay here. We need to continue to urge. Penang, I think, is a very positive example where engagement with their MPs and so forth needs to bring forth, particularly for the people who cannot afford it. That is reality. Okay, the mass needs, and by the way, I have to say I travel regularly to understand and engage with the international community. I would like to draw on what you said earlier. Nori, you always remind us, we already have kebolehan and a legacy of diversity. Okay, we need to pull forces together to address this particular issue of inclusive education. Sebenarnya is inclusive health, because it's across the lifespan. Today, I think we don't even have enough time to talk about. Before the grave, I'm reminded, there is aging. Yeah, and aging doesn't affect only the individuals. Please, I am now starting to enter a carer phase of my parents. Parents of our neurodiverse individual also needs and deserve intervention and help. So let me pull it in a little bit. So the needs for training, continuous professional education is not to train special education teachers alone. We propose it needs to be enhanced in the curriculum of all teachers training program. Yeah, that's number one. If I can speak very quickly into therapists, because when there is teachers, kalau boleh, you have the team of multidiscipline for us, is the therapist needs to work with the teachers. As statistics, in a population like ours, 33 million are we this time? We only have 5,000 physiotherapists, around 2,500 OT, and please don't fall off your chair. On the register, only 300 speech therapists. If this concern of autism, if I just look at autism, one part is on communication, social communication. Can you imagine? As a parent, I am anxious. As a professional, I am anxious. So please continue to advocate, repeat this for more systemic, organized planning in our whole education plan. The last MLK did touch on TVET. That was very promising because we know many of the individuals will go to handiwork schools, hidden there lah. Sebenarnya they have intellectual ability, but they are hidden there. So we do have something positive. We need to move it faster lah.
Okay, we've got time for the last 2 questions. Dr. Sanji first, and then yes.
Mine is very clearly just first thing. I'm a father of an autistic child. Probably the first time admitting it in public. But very clearly, I'm responsible for the late diagnosis because I picked it up about 3 years of age when he was 3, when Nira was 3. Obviously, didn't tell my wife about it. Solely because, I was working in the National Heart Institute, being the so-called top cardiologist, thinking that, I'm doing a lot of service. This can't happen to me. Can't be my son that has autism in that sense, and he being the first guy. But I think a lot of talk over here. But my question is straight to you. I mean, you're possibly going to be the next Prime Minister of the country, and I'm straightforward.
You is who?
Yeah, you.
Oh.
So, I mean,
He's not looking at us.
we need a straight commitment. So the only thing about a cardiologist is early diagnosis. I don't know if we've said this here, but I think every teacher that goes, every kindergarten teacher that goes to school has to learn how to recognize, to pick up autism.
Yes.
Period. Because you especially for parents with first children, parents, their children are everything to them. Even if they know they're autistic, you don't want to recognize that they're autistic. You need somebody to tell you that they're autistic. And I think you said that somebody took it to you to say it to you. So it's the same thing with me. I didn't want to recognize it until somebody told me it was autism in that sense. So if you don't correct this as the to-be Prime Minister, it's not going to happen. And that's, so every teacher who goes through teaching training programs have to learn. The first thing they have to do is learn how to recognize, to pick up autism, and then take it from there. So if you teach teachers that autism is normal, then I think, neurodiversity is normal, then you're going to have the public accepting it. We can talk a lot about this, but if we don't know how to recognize it at very early stage, we're going to keep having conferences like this again and again.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Doctor.
I often previously I asked myself why. Why would God gift me with Timor? Initially it was tough. Like you, I didn't fully want to accept it. When we got the diagnosis, I didn't know much about autism. I thought, okay, maybe it's a slight thing, maybe go away. And then, as years went by, I noticed that it's not that. My expectations have to change and things like that. So when in the most contemplative moments, I asked God, why did I get this gift? There must be a reason for it. Then I thought to myself, the reason is, of course, Timor himself. That is the reason, that is the gift, he in himself. But the other reason is that surely this experience needs to matter to me when I can do something about it. And if I don't do something about it, when I can do something about it, then there's something wrong. So I started with small things. So when I was at Ministry of Youth and Sports, there were things that I noticed that maybe I would have not noticed if I didn't have a son who was autistic. Very simple thing. Like I got there, found out that if you win a gold medal at the Olympic Games, you get 1 million ringgit. Then I asked what happens if you win a gold medal at the Paralympic Games, you get 300,000 ringgit. I changed that overnight, became the same. Maybe, clap. To us it seems obvious, right? But there was a reason for many, many years it wasn't that way. It took somebody like me, and I would think that, I was moved by my own personal experience. And then after that, we did the thing with TVET, with IKBN. We put a cafe, and I was so happy recently. I saw somebody who still works at that cafe, KBS, Rimau Cafe. He said, oh, by the way, that cafe is still there. And I'm the manager. I said, are you autistic? He said, no, I'm not autistic, but I manage kids who are still coming through. When I was at KKM, it was a very short time. I was managing the pandemic, but we tried to set up the Majlis Autism Negara, which didn't happen. So I can only say to you, Sanjeev, that my own personal experience of why this gift was given to me has stayed with me throughout my career. And if God ever opens the door that I go back into whatever position, and if He sees it fit that one day I occupy that particular office, then of course, I will do my very best for all of us, inshallah.
Thank you.
Inshallah. Sorry, there was I forgot you stood up just now, but maybe I go to her first and then you can have the last question. We'll take both of your questions at the same time. Yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat petang. Saya Nazira. I'm from New Zealand, Malaya. I'm here today because of I'm a mother. We have two neurodivergent children, 20 years old and 22 years old. And one was diagnosed when he was young, 5 years old, and I was doing my PhD in Sydney University, and so he was attending school at a public school at Sydney Uni, and he was diagnosed at school, and it was picked up at school, and he had all the support that he needed for the 3 years that he was attending school at Sydney University. We came back to Malaysia, and he went to Sekolah Kebangsaan, and that was quite challenging for us. So,
can you tell us what support he got in Sydney?
Okay, so first the teachers recognized that he needed some support, but they did not know what support it was. So coming from Malaysia, they thought that he couldn't speak English, so there was language support teacher that came to the class. So he was still in a mainstream class, but there was a special teacher aide who came to support. Then the rest, no, it wasn't a language issue. Then we thought it was a learning difficulty issue. And so he had another teacher aide who helped him with that. And that also wasn't a problem. Then they realized that, okay, he needed a special assessment, and he was assessed by a psychologist, and a diagnosis of thought processing disorder was made at that time. So then a teacher who was, so they've got a group of teachers who were trained to support children like this. And so he had that support in class, and he had a support during lunch break. So in Australia, kids go to school from 9 to 3, and so they do lunches at school. So during lunch, there was always a teacher who would support these kids who were not able to blend in socially, who were very, who can be inappropriate sometimes, who can be very unsure of how to even play. So that was the different thing that he had. And
then you came back and suddenly it was all different.
Yeah, so even, and that school itself, they had speech therapists coming to the school, helping out, and also some programs that were specially designed for parents of these children. So we came back to Sekolah Kebangsaan, and so Ezra was a bright child, so he did well at school. But when I voiced my concerns about him and his problems not being able to blend in socially and not being able to communicate well with friends, and the feedback I got was, oh, it's okay, he's doing well in his exams. So that's our concern in our our school education. It's more about exams and how kids can do well in exams. So Ezra's 22 now, and so Tuan KJ, you mentioned kids go through 3 phases, and so I've gone on to the middle phase now that he's now in university. Even university, I had to change to another university because he wasn't able to cope in the first university, and the second university actually has got the supports needed so that he can load his papers, and that he's got those other special supports. So yeah, second child, Dr. Choy, you mentioned that diagnosis can happen at any time. So second child was only diagnosed when she was 18 to have Asperger's, and that was unmasked because she went through a mental health issue.
Yes.
So diagnosis can happen at any time. I know a friend who was diagnosed at a very much later stage in life towards retirement. And yeah, so that's me as a mum having 2 children, and I'm very lucky because I work in a hospital, and they get good supports, and the people around us are very supportive as well. So I'm a mother, but I'm also an educator. I'm a university professor. I'm a rehabilitation physician. I'm an academic at University of Malaya. And I'm also director of University of Malaya Medical Center. So I'm a hospital director. So I understand health and I understand academic. And what am I seeing now? I'm seeing my students. I'm seeing students who are neurodivergent. And these are bright students, but unable to cope in a lot of ways. I see housemen, who are very smart, but now they are going through a different challenge in life. And as neurodivergent individuals, they need a different kind of support. But we in the management, it's difficult for us to know how to support. We try to support as much as we can, but we are not trained to support. But this is something that we are recognizing. And in the university, at the hospital, we do recognize that our children, our students need special support, and our staff. So we are seeing more and more supported neurodivergent individuals who get through university, who get through the stage where they are employed to work. But when they start working, the support is not there anymore. And that's when they can crash. And that's when, they do things that can be misunderstood. So I'm happy to share that at the University of Malaya, we are looking at we started actually to do a guideline on how to support our staff who are neurodivergent. And we're also lucky because we've got many experts in the university, including in the hospital. So I hope that, neurodivergent individuals, from the time they are diagnosed as a child, throughout their life, going on to the phase 3, and Tuan KJ, there will be a phase 4 when these people will start aging.
Yes. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a national policy needs to exist, and how do we support our children, our peers, our friends who are neurodivergent?
Thank you for sharing, Professor Dr. Nazira. Good to see you again. Thank you so much. Maybe we'll take the last one and then we can have the wrap-up comments after that. Yes, please.
Hi, good evening. Assalamualaikum. My name is Azian and I have 4 boys. 2 of them is autistics. I just wanted to, those who are able to make a policy for the country, is that we know that one of the biggest contribution for the economy is the organization of the SME, right? So we don't talk about big organizations, because big organizations like Petronas, all these big players, they're able to give whatever help to the employees. So if the policymaker could actually do that, like allow the company, especially in the small medium, that some amount of special need education grant to the employee. And when the employee exercises this grant will be converted into tax, corporate tax. Because we all know, once we have special need child, cost is something very, very challenging, even for myself. So if we are able to have this type of policy whereby the government able to say any small medium company who are able to give a grant, special need grant to the employee for at least 3,000 a year. Of course, they have all the terms and conditions. And this is being utilized by the employees. And it will be converted into the corporate tax. It helps a lot. It helps a lot, especially those of the lower income. That's what I think. Second is that a lot of government schools, it's primary, they are being trained. They can recognize children that probably have the condition or symptom of special needs. And the issue is that when the difficult conversation is done, take place with the parent, there is no specific act or something that make the parent to go and take these children go for assessment. For example, in my son's class, from standard 1, now my son is 10 years old. This one is normal. So from standard 1 until standard 4, this one particular boy can just spin around in the class, go out screaming, but still in the aliran perdana. Okay? Alright, thank you.
Thank you. Maybe just to tie the two comments from Professor Nazira and also Azian just now, I'll give my initial reaction first to what Professor Nazira said about a national policy. As somebody who's had the privilege of serving in government a few times, kita ni ada sedikit jurang antara dua P. P pertama adalah policy, tapi P kedua ni adalah peruntukan. Policy biasanya ada, tapi peruntukan tu tak ada. And all of us who are penjawat awam, wherever we are, sama ada KPT, universiti, they all consider penjawat awam lah. Kita berdepan dengan masalah yang sama. Sila guna peruntukan yang sedia ada. I mean, itu memang ayat yang paling famous daripada Kementerian Kewangan lah, kan? Guna peruntukan yang sedia ada. So I think we also need to be realistic when we come up with our policies, and we have to make some tough choices. Saya nampak dalam mana-mana kerajaan lah, bukan hanya kerajaan pada hari ini, but all the governments that I've served, kita ni scattergun approach. Kita bagi sikit-sikit and kita distribute as much as possible. But I think it's high time we need to make tough choices about priorities, what's important, and then double down on some of those things, rather than try to do so many things but very little, rather than do less things more. So I think, that's something that I would advocate for. ASEAN's point just now about, tax relief, that's something interesting we can look at, and we can push to the right sort of people. Maybe, sebab most people are not employed by big companies. Majority of companies and majority of people are employed by small, medium enterprises anyway. So if we don't address that gap, then, they're not going to be able to get these incentives. But coming to a second point, tadi kita cakap tentang how we wish that people are more open to neurodivergent kids to be in the inclusive aliran perdana. But she's clearly made a case where, where the cikgu pun tak peduli, tak ada siapa peduli, and as a result, I mean, we have to admit, neurodivergent kids can be challenging.
Of course.
Kalau tak ada, the right way of doing it, they can disrupt also. So, what is the middle ground here? Before we wrap up.
I'm not for disruption. If they're getting therapy and they've got the help, they should be allowed to be in mainstream class to try to see where there's inclusion. Where a child doesn't even have a diagnosis, I am the first to say that if a child is going to hurt another child, that's a clear no-no, because school is supposed to be a safe environment. But if the management can be assured that this child is getting support, getting therapy, and we would like to try for inclusion, that's when I say, tolong jangan bantah. And the child can cope, and the child is trying. The child may not be perfect. Yes, the child may not have friends. The child may sit alone. But allow the child to be in that environment. If the child is disruptive, then obviously the whole discipline issues arises. It's a different ball game. I say this because the three of us sitting on stage are in a position of privilege. We could choose. We had options. A lot of people are not. They only rely on KPM, and government school is the only chance where such children will get education.
Thank you. SK, would you like to respond, and also maybe some concluding remarks, because we're drawing to a close also.
Yeah. So I just want to re-emphasize and revalidate what Anit has said. So perhaps the training to de-escalate, you used the word before escalated, can be there. Can I respond on both at the policy and peruntukan?
Yep.
What I learned in my 10 years in this is it is a multi-agency matter that involves Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education. Education pun ada KPM dan KPT. Then as they grow older, we have to also have the involvement of Ministry of Labour, which is Kasuma. Dalam kesemua ni, at least these four, of course the welfare,
Social welfare
department is
also.
under the Ministry of Women. That's 5. Yeah. Then the key kingpin is the Ministry of Finance. Kalaulah peruntukan yang di mana-mana is so if we can socialize the ministers and their executors of the programs to allocate, because the allocation is different, right? So that's one wish that I have, the inter-ministries discussion, and that's why maybe at that point the council could have had that role,
Yes.
to integrate. Yeah, part of our problem in our space is there are many things, but they are not connected. Yeah, so that's one wish. Now my line of thought is now the good news, and a shout out to Kasuma on the allocation side of training is it was launched in the National Training Week last October that companies contributing to HRD funding, this is a human resource development funding, the door is now open for special education training topics. How excited did we get? Very excited. By the way, because of my industry involvement, Oasis has always had a HRD Corp funded training. When you come to our training, many people are not aware. So part of the key part is awareness, dissemination of all this information, always updating information that is constantly changing, just like the world of neurodiversity. So now under Kasuma, we are able to invite corporates, and that's where we go. You asked earlier, where does Oasis go? So for the adults, we will go to companies or corporates that contribute to human resource training, and they can draw almost 100% of the training fee. So please, if you are part of any of these SMEs or large MNCs, open that door is our cry. And that topic can start because it is at the more adult and corporate level with a simple topic of mental health. Yeah, as I think Puan had, or is it the professor mentioned, at 18, the symptom isn't so, sometimes not so clear of autistic attributes. It is actually mental health. And many are wrongly diagnosed. We know that it appears that the female gender is got this ability to hide. The technical term is masking. But even, by the way, I have encountered and met in real life a gentleman who is 60 years old who got his first diagnosis of ADHD because he was a high-performing CEO, and he had to he had lost his ability to juggle some of the balls. So for some of them at adult level, that's why it's lifelong. The support needs changes from supporting education to supporting work. It's not intellect. That is the challenge. We value intellect, but they will need support in organization skill, sensory management skills, socialization skills, and mental health skills.
Thank you, SK. Before we bring this wonderful afternoon to a close, I'm not going to try to try to summarize things because we've covered so much ground. I wanted to provide the opportunity for Anit because she has a few slides to share with us, and having seen those slides, I think it's an appropriate way to end the discussion today. Anit, would you like to share with us the slide?
Okay, the slides were actually 3 of the slides that I presented in Brunei because they invited us to speak on neurodiversity and to see what Malaysia already has, and to encourage all of you in the room to be advocates and to speak up. We all started as parents. Our passion is as parents. You have a different role. Whatever your role, just speak up. So one of the things we want to raise is what MAHB already has. Have any of you noticed this? If you travel at KLIA, Malaysia Airports has introduced this butterfly effect lanyard, where anybody with hidden disabilities, autism, ADHD or otherwise can apply for it. And if they put it on, the whole airport experience becomes seamless. You know, it is a dignified way of identifying as a person who needs support, and the airport staff are all trained when they see this to provide that support. And this started off as a conversation, and in other countries it's called the sunflower lanyard because that's the autism symbol. In Malaysia Airport chose the butterfly lanyard. And the next slide will tell you what it is. And this is why you need to speak up. Because what's the butterfly effect? It's this idea that a small action can eventually become something so big that it can lend a significant difference to everybody. So, you know, as the butterfly flies, it creates a hurricane. So if that is the way it can happen, all your voices slowly can cause this effect. And to end, we stand here on shoulders of people who have been before us, who have been advocates before us. Nori and I had the privilege of knowing and getting to know, as you see in the next slide, Kak Felina, Puan Felina Faisal. She was the pioneer in neurodiversity in Malaysia. We no longer have her with us today, so I would ask you all to say a prayer for her soul. And these are just 2 pictures. The one on the left was on her birthday, she was still serving. That was a conference organized for the ASEAN Autism Master Plan. It was her birthday, and that picture was taken because Nuri and I just went and said, hey, you still need to celebrate. National service comes first, but it's also your birthday. And the next picture is outside Parliament because she dragged Mira and me. We need to do law reform. So she inspired others. We hope that her legacy will continue to live on, and a prayer for her. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking both SK and Anit for wonderful sharing this afternoon. Terima kasih. Thank you so much. Thank you. And back over to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you to our panel for such a powerful and enlightening conversation. Okay, one thing I would like to address before I proceed regarding the teacher training program. Since I'm working with Teacher Education Institute, Institut Pendidikan Guru Malaysia di bawah KPM. If any organisation or anyone here would like to collab with us on preparing our teachers for early detection, we do have 2 campuses to train special education teachers, which are in IPG campus Ilmu Khas in Cheras, and also we have one IPG campus Kota Baru. We could do something about this. Altogether we have 27 campuses, but these 2 campuses we focus on special education teachers. Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, as we draw our fireside chat to a close, we would like to take a moment
Thank you.
to show our appreciation to our speakers and also moderators. So I invite Madam Mona Jamaluddin to present tokens of appreciation on behalf of PPSEAWA Malaysia. Dr. Choy, Sook, Kuen. Datin, Anit, Kaur, Randawa. And for Mr Khairy Jamaluddin, a gift from Ufi Spanish Latte Energy Drink. They have a booth outside there if anyone would like to try. They invite you all. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please stay on the stage. Madam Mona, yeah. I would like to invite our corporate sponsor, representatives from Tenaga Nasional Berhad, to come to the stage for a photography session.
Bukan mudah, tapi indah. Tuhan pilih aku untuk bersamamu. Surga itu mah takkan mudah datang. Teruskan bertahan.
Thank you. Right, I would like to invite another corporate sponsor come to the stage for a photography session.
Sampai mati biar aku di sisi. Susah senang kan ku jagamu, amanatku yang tercinta, hadiah darinya.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I invite Madam Mona to accompany our moderator and speakers back to their seats.
Sampai masa datang untuk kita pulang padanya. Dunia hanya sementara, agar kita akan bersama di sana.